Emma, Norman, and Ray are three extremely intelligent orphans that share a happy and structured life at the Gracefield house along with 35 other kids. At breakfast, we meet Mom Isabella. She tends to the kids with patience and care. Following breakfast, the kids are shown demonstrating their intellectual aptitude in a series of tests, which Emma, Norman, and Ray all pass with perfect scores. The kids then engage in a game of tag on the large green fields and among the lush trees of the forest that surround Gracefield. Norman seemingly disappears into the forest with nobody able to find him until Emma accidentally stumbles upon the outer limits of the forest and notices him gazing at the low-level fence at the border. There's a discussion of what the outside world must be like, and the kids all take turns dreaming about that fated day when they're adopted and finally leave Gracefield. One of the younger kids, Connie, is actually being adopted that very day. After a day of play and fun, Connie bids a tearful farewell to her Gracefield family and is led away from the house by Isabella. During cleanup, Emma comes across Connie's beloved stuffed animal, Little Bunny. Knowing that she can't possibly make the transition into her new foster home without her dearest friend, she takes Norman and attempts to return the doll to Connie. The pair makes their way to the gate where a truck lies waiting in the stone corridor. Emma assumes that if she leaves the bunny in the back of the truck, that Connie will eventually find it, but when she goes to place it, she discovers a horrific scene. Connie's lifeless body. They hear voices from another room and immediately go to hide under the truck. Horrified, they see a figure that looked like Demon Monster. She and Norman both struggle to muffle their screams of terror as the monsters discuss how the kids are being raised as high-quality meat for rich and powerful monsters. Suddenly, one of the monsters calls Mom and tells her to ensure that the delivery of the high-quality goods goes off without incident. In a matter of moments, Emma and Norman's entire world has been shattered, revealing the terrible truth of their lives. Realizing that the Gracefield house is actually a farm raising humans as food for the demons. They eventually escape from the corridor, running back to the house. That night, she and Norman are discussing what to do next when Norman suggests they should plan on escaping. Emma is reluctant, not wanting to leave the other kids there to die. Meanwhile, Isabella discovers the stuffed toy Emma had left beside the truck when they fled. Emma can barely hide her look of terror upon hearing and seeing Mama for the first time since their discovery, but Norman tells her they have to keep smiling like nothing's wrong. Mama may know someone was at the gate to leave the bunny behind, but she doesn't know who. During playtime, Emma and Norman agree escaping through the forest is the safest way, but when they cross the short fence, they soon encounter a massive, seamless concrete wall. Things get even more complicated when a little girl is lost. All Mama has to do is glance at her watch, and she knows exactly where to find her. So, now they know that security is rather lax because they have some kind of tracking device implanted somewhere in their bodies. Back at the house, while having a private moment of grief for Connie, Mama suddenly appears before Emma, wondering why she's been less cheerful of late. Ray ends up bailing them both out when he rings the dinner bell, but as Emma and Norman depart, Mama asks them straight up if they were at the gate the previous night. They cheerfully say of course not, that's against the rules, and continue on, but Mama is definitely suspicious. Once they're alone again, neither can hold in their sheer terror anymore. They're going to get out of here, they just need a plan. That plan involves stashing a bunch of table linen in a tree hollow near the wall that they'll use to make rope when the time comes to escape. They have 2 months left before the next child is taken, but someone followed them out to the wall. Fortunately for them, it's their friend Ray, who wants to know what's up. They tell him, and to their amazement, he believes it all, because he knows Norman well enough to know he'd never lie about something like this. While Ray is willing to help them with the big escape plan, he has a big problem with Emma's insistence that all 37 children will be escaping. Later, Isabella introduces a new infant named Carol and an adult helper named Sister Cronny. Cronny is already planning to take her boss place. Meanwhile, Emma, Norman, and Ray have just one more difficult variable to consider during their preparations for what's already looking like a hopeless escape plan. When told to think like the enemy in finding a place where a tracking device could be implanted, she inspects Carol, the newest addition to the farm, and finds a red bump behind her ear. They agree that it's too risky to attempt to destroy their ear trackers as it could trigger the alarm, so they focus on getting everyone out first. The trio decides to disguise the escape as a harmless game of tag. Emma sets to work improving the kids' physical condition, while Norman and Ray coach them up on the proper way to survive. Unfortunately, Sister Cronny is suspicious about their plans and intends to ship them out sooner than their official ship date so she can accuse Isabella for breaking protocol and grab power. Later, Norman and Ray put the pieces together to determine there's a traitor among them. Isabella promises Cronny that if she cooperates, she'll be a mama of her own. Predictably, Cronny privately fumes and resolves to unseat Isabella rather than wait to be promoted. Meanwhile, Emma, Norman, and Ray continue their escape practice disguised as a game of tag. Only this time the team's led by older kids rather than everyone on their own. The trio suspect Gilda or Dawn to be the traitor. Later that evening, the trio share their secret with two other children, Dawn and Gilda, although Norman chooses not to tell them that Connie is dead. Norman lies that the kids who left were victims of human trafficking, since the cold reality might just be too much. Gilda and Dawn ultimately both agree that an escape attempt is the only choice. Ray doesn't like how Norman left out the truth to Gilda and Dawn about all the kids dying and being eaten, but for Norman, the escape must come first. He's also set traps for Gilda and Dawn by giving them different locations for their escape rope. That night, Emma pretends to sleep and watches Gilda sneak out of the bedroom. What Emma can't see through the door is that someone slips a piece of paper under Isabella's door with the location of the rope under Norman's bed. After the paper is delivered, Gilda visits Cronnie's room and Emma listens in from behind that door. Things get a little tense in there, with evidence wavering between Gilda being Cronnie's informant and not, but in the end, Gilda does what Emma hoped for and refuses to give up any information. When Norman and Ray search the two spots where the rope was hidden, Norman says there's nothing under the bed, and Ray says that must mean Dawn is the traitor. Only now Norman is convinced that Ray has been the real traitor all along, since he was the only one who knew about this place. For his part, Ray doesn't deny anything, but he does explain that he did it because it had to be done. Norman agrees to forgive Ray as long as he agrees to be his spy as well. Ray agrees, but only if Norman tricks Emma into thinking they're taking everyone. Other than Gilda and Dawn, the little ones will be a burden, both during and after the escape, and Ray didn't spend years being Mama's informant for everyone to get killed in a futile attempt to get everyone out. Later, Ray meets with Isabella, telling her the others continue to use the game tag as practice, but focuses Mama on Sister Cronnie as the primary threat. Later, Ray admits to Emma that he's Mama's informant. Gilda and Dawn feel left out of most of the private conversation between the other three, but Gilda and Emma start observing Mama more closely, and Emma discovers there's a secret room where she does something. Dawn is itching to get in there, but Ray urges caution and Norman agrees. But Dawn doesn't know that Connie is dead, and so he wants to escape and save her. To that end, he and Gilda enter Mama's room, and Gilda slides a bookshelf aside to reveal a locked door. Dawn persists in creating increasingly tense situations for himself and Gilda, and is obsessed with learning the truth the other three won't tell them, so he steals Mama's key. Meanwhile, Norman, Gilda, and Ray agree that in order to escape and survive, they'll have to gather as much info as possible about the outside world and how they'll be able to live out there. Within many books in the library, there are book plates bearing the name William Minerva and various words in Morse code. If they can figure out the order of those words, they may be able to glean some kind of useful information Bill is trying to secretly relay to them. It gives the kids hope there might be other humans out there, resisting the demon hegemony. As for Dawn and Gilda, they explore deeper and deeper into Mama's secret chambers, finding all of the stuffed animals and toys that not only confirm that what Norman said about the adults being bad was true, but make them suspect something far worse is going on. Norman and Ray scold Dawn and Gilda, but they know they haven't gotten the whole story. Norman decides to tell them the truth, and as expected, it's a lot to take. Dawn and Gilda help steal certain materials that Ray mentions in his report to Mama, detailing Norman's plot to kill her. Norman tells Emma he's having Ray feed Mama false intel, so she'll ultimately be misdirected or otherwise distracted when they make their escape. During his report, Ray also learns that when the monthly shipment occurs in January, he will be the one being shipped out. His time grows short. Only a week remains until the agreed-upon date of the escape, but the kids get a bit too careless in their open conspiring, and Sister Cronnie suddenly pops out from behind a tree to announce that she knows everything about what the five of them are plotting. However, she isn't angry, nor does she threaten them. Instead, she suggests they join forces against Mama. That night, Emma and Norman visit Cronnie and ask her a series of questions which she answers, but they also realize she knows more than she reveals. Meanwhile, Ray receives an instant camera from Isabella as a reward for his assistance. Later, Mama informs Cronnie that she has been appointed as mom for Plant 4 and has to leave immediately. When she presents her evidence to Grandma of the high-quality kids' escape plan, it's utterly shrugged off because the kids are still under control. Grandma then asks the demons to kill her. Isabella, calling out Ray's treachery, suddenly and unexpectedly terminates their arrangement, locks him in a room, and uses her tracking device to detect Norman and Emma. When Dawn and Gilda see Isabella leave the house, but no sign of Ray, Dawn races into the house, busts down the door and frees Ray, and the three of them head to Norman and Emma's location as quickly as they can. Mama encounters Norman and Emma and rejects their fake smiles, dropping the pretense that she's maintained for 10 years. She also makes a seemingly heartfelt plea for them to stop resisting and simply accept their fates. When Emma and Norman reject Isabella's ultimatum, Mama snaps her knee like a twig, then lovingly applies a splint and carries her back to the house. Later, Isabella informs a horrified Norman that his shipment date has been set. When Norman proposes, they proceed with the escape plan when Emma is healed, and without him, they reject it. They tell him to deactivate his tracker with the device Ray has just completed and hide out until Emma heals. Then they'll all escape together. Norman agrees to the plan, and the next morning, Norman executes his escape. After he attaches the rope, he holds it taut as he runs up the wall and manages to grab hold of the top ledge and hoist himself up. A vast forest unfolds in all directions on the other side. If they could get everyone into that forest, the adults would have a hard time to find them. When Mama finally notices Norman is not around, she checks his tracking device and her expression makes it clear it's not working. But to Emma and Ray's horror, she smiles and closes the device and Norman emerges from the forest. Only while atop the wall and looking over the other side could he discover the truth. There is a vast, deep cliff between the wall and the forested land of a distance they can't hope to overcome. Norman offers them a ray of hope by noting that the complex of farms or plants form a hexagon, one side of which is the HQ where there's a bridge across the cliff. But he won't be joining them and his mind won't be changed. The scene of Norman's goodbyes is rough. All the kids are either in tears or just barely holding back, but no one is suffering his impending departure more than Emma, who tries to give him the tracking device breaker. Before they part, Norman hands her back the tracker breaker and tells her not to give up. Norman and Mama walk to the gate. They reach the gate and Mama directs him to room to wait, and that's the last we see of him. Emma and Ray are gutted by Norman's loss. The two of them don't seem able to continue on, even with support from Don and Gilda. Ray tells them he's tired and doesn't care anymore. They can do what they like. Both the little kids and Mama take note of Emma's constantly depressed state. Time passes and Ray's shipment date arrives. Emma wakes up and finds him in the chapel. It's there where both of them reveal that they've been acting around Mama, making Mama thinking they really did give up. Ray discussed with Emma on how burning the house down is the best way for them to make their escape. The former then showed Emma all the oil cans he had hidden over the past few years, as he proceeded to dump oil all over himself, scaring the wits out of Emma. Ray explained how he has been waiting for the day for him to end his life, as it would serve as a distraction for Isabella to rescue him whilst Emma and the other orphans can make their escape. As the clock chimes midnight, the now 12-year-old Ray ignited a fire. Emma hastily ran towards Ray. Soon after, a loud scream could be heard. Isabella went after the commotion as she saw Emma lying on the ground, devastatingly calling out Ray's name. Isabella checked her radar and noticed how Ray is indeed inside the burning fire. The former attempted to extinguish the fire, hoping that she could still retrieve Ray's brain. When Isabella ordered Emma to escape, she turned around and noticed how she already disappeared. Isabella used her radar once again and tried to look for Emma, only to pick up the signal of Emma's transmitter from her severed ear in the bathroom. Emma joins the other orphans in the forest. Don enlightened Ray on how Gilda and Emma had been getting the older orphans into the escape plan. Ray recalled how Emma prevented him from burning and killing himself and slapped him. Toma and Lanny came into the cafeteria and had wrapped meat and Anna's cut hair in Ray's clothes as a decoy. Emma revealed to Ray how months earlier, Norman told Emma of Ray's plan to burn himself and prepared a counterplan for her, which meant that they were already prepared to escape. As the orphans later evacuated the house, Isabella managed to get the communication device. As she stood outside the house, staring at it as it burns to the ground, Isabella started to laugh, as she happily states how she will catch them all of the orphans back. Before Isabella can make her move, Phil appeared behind her as he tugged her dress. The latter was shocked to see the child's presence. As the kids begin their ascent up the wall, Emma informs Ray of a change in her plans. Rather than rescue everyone tonight, she's leaving all the little ones 4 and under behind, and is committed to coming back for them and everyone else in the other plans before their various shipping dates arrive. That's why little Phil is with Mama as the house burns. Turns out Phil isn't on it, and even though he's only 4, he now understands what it means that Norman, Connie, and the others were harvested. Emma leaves him in charge and telling him to be ready for when she returns. There's another wrinkle in the plan for which Ray was kept in the dark, which meant Mama was kept in the dark. They don't use the very obvious bridge to cross the cliff. Instead, Don heaves a stone across a narrower portion of the cliff, and the rope wraps successfully across a tree. He ziplines across, secures the other end of the rope, and secures the second and third that kids use water rockets to launch across. Phil also succeeds in distracting Mama just long enough so when she sounds the alarm, the monsters go to the bridge, and when she realizes they're not at the bridge, she doesn't get to their location until Emma is the last person who hasn't made the crossing. Emma flashes one last defiant look at her former Mama and says goodbye before ziplining across. In her moment of defeat, we learn that Ray is Isabella's son. In the end, Mama seems to be proud that her beloved children outwitted her. Now that they're beyond the wall and cliff, she wishes them good fortune. Emma, Ray, and the other Gracefield children begin their journey to find a safe place to live. Upon further examination of the pen, Ray shows everyone the hidden Morse code. Upon pressing the screen, Gilda enters the password needed for the screen that displays a note left by Minerva. guiding them to the location they need to head to. Everyone says it's thanks to Norman leaving them the pen that they'll be able to head to their safe haven. Meanwhile, demons who were sent out to track down Grace Field's missing livestock are on the lookout for the children. As the night carries on, the children continue to make their way until they're stopped in their tracks by a wild demon who chases them throughout the forest. Dawn and Gilda make the signal for their groups to split into two while Emma and Ray run behind the group. The wild demon is caught on an arching tree branch, striking it and confusing it for a short amount of time. As the trio catches their breath after escaping from the monster, they stumble upon a trap called the Snakes of Alapinera, where falling into them means never getting back out. Ray then decides to make his goal to get the demon to follow him where he'll trap it in the vines. Ray then begins his plan by getting the monster to chase him. However, his plan is cut short by the hunters looking for him. Knowing he'll only be captured, Ray decides to trick the hunters by telling him they're all dead, except for him, and distract them. Shortly after, a call whistle is made from the pursuers, signaling that a child has been found. Emma then explains she'll check out the situation and that everyone should continue to head downwind. However, as she heads off, she suddenly collapses due to the wound on her ear opening up once more. Just as Anna examines her, someone in the distance leads them to safety. During this, Ray continues his escape from the pursuers. Eventually, he's cornered and collapses on the ground. Just as he's about to be taken in, he's suddenly lifted up and taken away by someone else. Ray later awakens next to a lantern and a soft makeshift bed. Taking the lantern from beside him, he wanders until he finds Emma sleeping in a room nearby and goes to wake her up. She awakens happy to see Ray again. As Ray is explained to what happened with Emma and the group, they discuss the possibility of being rescued by Minerva's group. Suddenly, the masked woman from before comes to check on Emma and is relieved to see her up and awake. As she takes them to eat dinner with them, Ray makes the shocking discovery that the man and woman who saved them are actually demons, and that they don't even know who Minerva is. Emma and Ray confront the two now known demons as to what they did with their siblings, leading Emma to think Mujika cooked and prepared them for dinner. Without giving anything away, Mujika simply tells her nothing as Sanju makes room for her to run away. Ray follows after her. Sanju and Mujika shortly enter after and apologize to Emma for not telling her much. In response, she apologizes as well, thanking them for saving the rest of the children. Once everyone but the three are asleep, Emma and Ray ask their questions. They ask why they aren't eating them. Sanju replies back with his religion and its dietary restrictions. They then ask what had happened to humans 30 years ago based on assumptions from books they found in Minerva's name. Sanju is quick to tell them that humans haven't been free in this world in 1,000 years and have only been livestock ever since. 1,000 years ago, a deal was made between demons and humans due to an ongoing war between them. Demons originally hunted humans for food, and in response, the humans began fighting back. More demons were killed than humans eaten. Due to the amount of fear and hatred between the groups, the humans promised to no longer hunt demons if demons no longer ate humans. To keep the deal in order, humans gave the demons other humans to purposefully bred and keep as livestock. Since then, the human world and demon world has been kept apart, and the livestock children were stuck in the demon world. Later on, Sanju gives the children directions as to where they want to go and explains it'll take 6 days total. Throughout the course of the 6 days of traveling, the children are taught about herbs by Mujika and harvesting food and materials by Sanju, as well as mapping and using weapons like bows and arrows. 6 days passed away, and they could finally go to the shelter. Before Emma left, Mujika gave the amulet to Emma, and that amulet will protect Emma if she will hold it, and after that Emma said goodbye to them. They finally find the entrance and went to the shelter. Emma opened the lights, but no one is there, but Mr. Minerva left a letter saying the shelter is for the children. Ray found a radio in the monitor room. With this radio, they can learn about what's going on at the house. Then Emma, Ray, Dawn, Gilda, Anna, and Nat went outside to play the radio, and the radio said everything is normal at the Plant 1 and Plant 4. Emma, Ray, Dawn, and Alicia went on a secret room, and they heard the phone is ringing. Emma answered the phone, and the one who is calling is William Minerva. But her hopes are somewhat dampened by Ray, who explains it to be a recording. In said recording, Minerva explains his intentions into doing this because he saw countless children be sacrificed to demons and couldn't bear it any longer, thus starting a shelter behind their backs for children that became aware of what was really happening. He leaves the rest of the kids and leaves a map in the pen titled Future, should they ever want to go to the human side of the world, and the recording ends. Suddenly, an explosion is heard down in the power of the shelter and knocking the two late-night shifters unconscious. Two men barge in the shelter with guns and scout the place, looking for the kids, unknown to them that they escaped and hid down the caves. The group runs to escape their captors only for them to drop in from holes above. Emma and Ray push one of them down and escape through another route. Once on the surface, they gather the kids and order them to run into the forest. However, the forest is blocked by a group of armed soldiers who have all the kids at gunpoint, ready to pull the trigger. Unbeknownst to them, the demon the kids have encountered a couple of days back was roaming around the area and then kills all the soldiers. Ray shoots it in one of the eyes, leaving it writhing in pain. The demon, enraged, chases the kids once more as they all split up into the darkness of the forest. Back at the prison, one of the demons held a flower of death and was planning to use it on Isabella after a heated debate with his bosses due to the variety of options they had on her. He decides to make a deal with her. He'll give her freedom and something desirable if she manages to bring back all the children, alive or dead. After the attack on the shelter, a group of kids disguised as demons make way into a nearby town under guise of business. They discover that most of the populace are bitter and poor due to the nobility taking almost all shares of human meat. In an abandoned temple not far from town, the kids live in temporary residence while Emma and Ray figure out what to do after the attack. The next day, Toma, Ann, and one of the kids reveal their demon costumes to the group and beg Emma to take them with her into town. Emma objects initially, but gives in when Don decides to take them anyway. Suddenly, an old demon emerges from the shadows, not able to recognize the children due to blindness, and believes they are demonic children who are passing through. He begins to pray for his kind and wishes for everything to turn out better for them. Wishing for the town to prosper again, he leaves. In the town's slums, two demons look at their relatives' deteriorating conditions and worry they won't survive the next couple of days. One of them believes that the kids that escaped from Grace Field are still at large and might possibly be in town, and if they catch them and feed them alive, their relatives will survive and be cured of their sickness. Back in the forest, Toma show their slingshot method of catching the gooey fish to the group. Once they're done, they decide to trick Emma to go into town to get some seasoning there. However, once in the market, the two bump into the same demons who were searching for them by accident. At first apologizing for this encounter, the demons start to smell human meat and believe that they were carrying some but find fish instead. In a panic, the two run and the demons give chase all across town. Emma and Ray watch from the rooftops before they were chased by another group of demons. As soon as both groups lost their pursuers, they jump back down and try to navigate back to the temple, only for the original two demons to find them, and then another group of demons hold Emma and Ray at sword point. While the former group tries to dissuade the latter to not kill their quarry, they did not notice another demon appearing behind them and slice them in half, surprising Emma and Ray. While expecting their deaths, he says Emma's name and declares that he found them, and they discover to their shock and horror that the demon behind the mask is Norman. Back at the ruins, Dawn, Gilda, and the others are all shocked at seeing Norman in front of them. Norman explains that he was taken to a lab called Lambda instead of just being sacrificed. He witnessed children being drugged, experimented, and mutated on, himself being tested a few times. He was able to escape with the supporter of Minerva's help. Sometime later, he was able to develop a drug that degenerates demons and return them to a primal state. Recalling Emma's goal, he began mass production of the drug to make them primal and exterminate the demons altogether, and build a human world for themselves so they wouldn't live in fear anymore. While everyone supports his plan, Emma is starting to feel unsure. Emma confesses she doesn't want to kill demons, as it would make them no better than the demons in the first place. She seeks a pacifist route, though accepts that it will never happen. In the forest, Ray is looking for a hideout that Norman told him about. Once there, they are greeted by Ciclo, Barbara, and Vincent, Norman's adult co-conspirators, and inform him that Norman is out and will be back soon. Norman arrives and beckons the latter two outside before addressing his friends. As he introduces the drug, Ray reveals that some demons will not degenerate with the drug, and Norman curiously questions them and rises in anger after hearing that the demons the group encountered are still alive. Angrily reacting to Mujika's name, Norman recalls her exploits that span all the way back 700 years. Originally a savior of an out ghost town, she can turn anyone into a non-human eating demon by fusing her blood through any means and can create demons through her same composition. Word soon spread throughout the demon world and it became prosperous for a time. However, the king found out and carried out a genocide of demons who carried Mujika's blood to keep the demons in line and not be overthrown or have any kooks from them. These events sparked the human-demon war and the promise soon after, and Mujika faded away into obscurity. Unaware to everyone that she was on the run ever since, Norman berates Emma for her way of thinking and resolves to kill Mujika and Sanju so nothing stands in the way of his plan, despite Emma's protests to the contrary. He got shipped out, all the gates were destroyed, Minerva and his supporters were all exterminated, and the only way into the human world is right where it all began, Grace Field House, miles underneath it. Emma makes a last-minute deal. She'll find Sanju and Mujika in a week and he has to stop his plan. After a brief argument with timing, Norman reluctantly agrees and gives his former friends 5 days to find them, else he continues with his plan. He sees them off and walks downstairs to the basement. He declares that the plan is still on and will kill them all when they bring the two demons to him. Dawn and Gilda join Emma and Ray into tracking them down and bringing them to Norman, as well as to keep them out of trouble. Back at base, however, Norman suffers a coughing fit and remembers the night of his shipment. Norman recalls what happened at Special Facility. He did not end up being sacrificed on his shipment day. A man named Peter Rattray welcomed him, and he said that he wants Norman to help him in his research. Norman went to facility where he took tests and he was able to answer each question correctly. Sisla was injected with various mutations, Barbara was tortured, Zazie was chained to a wall, and Vincent was experimented with his head. Throughout his stay, Norman made a plan to escape the facility and was able to get explosives to a bomb he was making. One night, he triggers it and succeeds in his plan and breaks out the surviving inmates, including the 4 whom he employs under him, and is given a pen by a man before dying of his injuries. Back to the present time. In the forest, the 4 are chased by the wild demon. The demon was downed by Ray shooting it in the eye, while Emma collapsed from exhaustion. She was almost eaten, but Sanju kills it. Relieved that they found Sanju and Mujika, they tried to bring them to Norman. However, it was all in vain, as Norman and his group raids the village. They made a bomb in the demon village and spread the drug which degenerates them, and they start attacking each other. The 2 sick young demons came out of their house to flee, and Norman personally went into the demon village to slaughter them. One little demon girl tries to escape from Norman's wrath, searching for her grandpa, the same demon who often prays for things to get better. Just as he returns, he saw the village burning. Realizing what's happening, he tries to find her granddaughter. The drug reaches them and the little demon degenerates, but her grandpa does not. Realizing he's a descendant of Mujika's blood infusions, he attempts to kill them. Norman then sees the carnage his group has wrought onto the demons and begins to have some regrets. Before pulling himself together and preparing for battle, Emma and Ray attempt to convince Norman about how they can still escape without killing the demons. He breaks down crying in front of Emma, crushed by suffering he has experienced and his rash decisions based on the time he has left. Mujika came and she gave the glass with blood to the female demon, instructing her to spread it to everyone so they will not degenerate again. Barbara tries to kill the demon, but she sees herself in them and suffers a migraine due to it. Zazie charges at the demon, but Norman tells him to stop. Barbara regains her composure and replies Norman is more important than revenge. Mujika saw the 2 young demons and she gave the glass filled with blood to them before heading back to the temple. Once there, Toma and Lanyon ran over to Ray in a panic and inform him that Phil and others are about to be shipped out. Unaware to them, it was a trap set up by Rattray and his newest grandma, Isabella. Rattray explains his plan to expand the Lambda drum-based development to other farms, demolishing the need for high-class farms such as Grace Field. The demon agrees to the plan, but makes Rattray keep some of the farms open so they can provide to the commoners. Norman realizes that they are planning to shift to Lambda-style farms sooner than expected, and Emma desperately tries to make a plan to rescue Phil and his group, despite Ray's suspicions that it's a trap. The little demon girl gives a piece of the promised pen to Emma. The pen displayed blueprints of the inside and outside of Gracefield houses, showing the gate to the human world as well as a recipe for a cure of all the side effects due to the drugs that were used on Norman and his other friends. Emma, Ray, Norman, and the other children decide to go back to Gracefield in order to save Phil and the others. However, while everyone is sleeping, Vincent is seen making a radio call to Gracefield with Isabella picking up on the other side. Emma, Ray, and Norman plan a break-in into Gracefield to rescue Phil and 119 more children along with him. They plan to launch hot air balloons and drop a demon-killing drug on the farms. However, Vincent ratting out the information to Peter Rattray's base, allowing Isabella to update her security to handle the raid. Intending on capturing Norman and killing everyone else, Rattray gives the operation a green light. Meanwhile, Phil, Simon, and other children from the farm are instructed to get ready to be shipped out. Soon after, the children from Lambda begin infiltrating Gracefields via hot air balloons. However, the hot air balloons were decoys planted to explode on impact with the ground, allowing Sanju and Norman's co-conspirators to attack and kill them from above. They manage to get inside and attack the demons they see there with smoke bombs. Vincent hacks into the network and taunts Rattray for falling for the trap, and the demons watch Emma sabotage the CCTV system. Once the lights were shut down, Gemma leads the children to the elevator while Phil distracts the women with the suitcases, causing them to trip and miss catching the children. The group head to the elevator where everyone reunites. However, the reunion was short-lived as the breeders point SMG at them. Isabella tauntingly welcomes the children back. Rattray takes in the defeat of the children and asks them to stand down and surrender. As Rattray is about to kill Emma, Isabella turns on Rattray and points her gun at his back, everyone following her lead. Despite being outnumbered and outgunned, Rattray still believes he is safe and already won due to backup coming. However, the backup was dispatched by civilians of the demon town along with Mujika, Sanju, and Vilk in an uprising against the farms. Vilk breaks into the elevator chamber and declares war on Rattray after enduring centuries of starvation and oppression by the ruling demons and humans. As Isabella is about to kill Rattray, he pulled out a knife and ended his life, regretting the murder of his brother, who is none other than William Minerva. With Rattray dead, the Gracefield residents are able to go to the human world at last, which takes the elevator down to a tree-like door marked with the Owl of Minerva. They stick the pen into one of the owl's eye when the door opens, and they walk into the unknown void. As they disappear, Emma, Ray, and Norman reveal that they are staying in the demon world. Norman's co-conspirators join up as they want to rescue their comrades left behind. Dom and Gilda end up going to the human world in order to help care for the younger children alongside Isabella. The doors begin to close, and Phil runs out to hug Emma one last time, promising to come and get them should they take too long. They end up in New York City, where they are helped by the people there, despite the humans in the demon world's claims to the contrary. The children finally get to wear normal clothes, go to school, and live their lives as regular children. Back in the demon world, everyone else crosses along barren wastelands and mountain ranges, meet children from what appear to be other farms, and save them. They finally arrive at the capital after passing a war-ravaged battlefield, and Mujika is able to share her blood with other demons and gets praise for her efforts. Back in the human world, many years have passed and all the children have grown. At the outskirts of New York, Phil reunites with Emma for the last time, having succeeded in her mission. The end. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more. See you next time.